All right, I wanted to talk about Battleworld and the Knull fight, and I'm going to try to be as objective as possible on this because when I played it yesterday, I was extremely disappointed, and my take largely has been represented here on Reddit. So I had to take a pause from playing it because I was frustrated because it feels like it's one of the simplest things that one would expect in a game is to have some sort of meaningful PvE content. Marvel Strike Force, I believe, does a good job at Dark Dimensions as far as PvE. I've felt that that has been a good experience. And when someone finally unlocks their Dark Dimension character, they'll tell me about it. It's like, hey, I was 50,000 unlocking Mephisto. Like, it's a big deal. Like, Dark Dimensions are generally a good experience for most players, and it feels rewarding. It's challenging. It's difficult. It takes time, and the reward is worth it. The other thing can be said true about the Scourges. I thought there was a lot of positive ways of going about Scourges, and a player that was smart and took the time to understand the nodes and min-maxed it and reran it and got the right RNG could perform just as good as somebody that had spent a lot of money. Now, the spender could get through it easier and get a higher potential score, or they could do it much quicker with less randomness and not work as hard. I thought those were good systems for PvE. Largely, this game has also got some advantages to the PvP. Like, a lot of people like Crucible, a lot of like Alliance War, well, maybe less so. But everything else that's PvE in the game is a disappointment. And they've kind of pivoted away from the Scourges in some way. And now I guess they're pivoting away in some way different than Dark Dimension. It's like, oh man, lean into the stuff that works and don't change it too much. And Battleworld, not so much. And I understand why they didn't have a leaderboard. Maybe my opinion would be a little bit different if there was a leaderboard and it was like a competition to find out what the best first, second, third best team, so that way you could do better on the leaderboards. But because there was glitches and bugs and of that type the last time around, they didn't put the leaderboard in because leaderboards really only work when there's competitive integrity and there's no exploits or bugs or flaws or things that make the leaderboards an issue like there was last time. So maybe, let me just put this out here. Maybe this particular run of the Knull fight was without leaderboards because they weren't sure there was going to be some sort of bug slash exploit. That's the only upside that I can think, because if the long-term plan is to not have a leaderboard, this was super uninteresting and uneventful and not good at all, in my opinion. Actually, pretty terrible, pretty embarrassing still, considering they had spent all of that development time to release a poorly executed version last fall, and then to pull it down and put it back up, and it's still in this strange state, in my opinion. The Knull buff face is so stupidly boring. Put in Astral, hit auto, what happens, happens. But there's a strategy. Yes, acquire Astral. That is the strategy. Even if you play it perfectly, permanent damage whittles you down, so all the sustain, and the world doesn't matter. What about applying negative effects to him? Well, he's going to mess you up regardless of what you put on him. But you can do damage him, yes. Maximum preset amount of damage, whether you bring in Odin or Hand Archer, they will both max out the same. Yes, aware Archer's damage isn't that high, but you get the point. It's satisfying to beat him, really? Just went in there with full health and whittled him down. Alliance mate came in and finished him off. Oh boy, how satisfying. But he's a big boss who does one thing no matter how many times you kill him. There's no strategies. There's no incentive other than victory points. Absolutely nothing changes if you beat him once or 12 times. It'd be rather forced to do 24-hour blitzes with all 60 teams per day. I'd rather be forced to take minions and RTA for an hour straight. I would rather go back to pure Infinity Watch versus Infinity Watch Arena for 2 years straight. This is a bit extreme. I don't know if I agree with all this. But anyways, this boss fight is the biggest waste of time that ever existed in this game. Edit. Well, how would you make it more fun? Mr. Never develop a game in your life. Step 1, remove the damage cap, but keep the percentage damage cap, meaning you can still hit for 10 million damage, but 8-pack can't take 60% of his max health. it should matter who your damage dealers are. That's actually pretty meaningful. Yeah, because the problem with Knull and the reason why they put a damage cap is because of the health steal, the max health damage by Apocalypse. So other games know about that and they cap the damage on those types of damage dealers, but not the normal damage dealers. That's actually not like an unknown solution. Other games do that. Absolutely. Step 2. Make a set amount of times he can die. Every time he comes back, he does something different. Oh my God. They do this in other games too. Maybe every time he comes back, he does something different and maybe he looks a little bit more monstrous. Maybe only his final form can do permanent health damage. One form can be immune to trauma. Other takes damage from bleed. When you go in, you choose your team. It tells you what stage he's at. Maybe using Astral, you'd be better off using Night Stalkers or someone who deals a lot of bleed. These are literally the first thoughts I had after the first time Battleworld came around. Yeah. I don't think it takes, a genius developer to come up with some very simple, practical solutions to make it not garbage. Let's talk about Battleworld. So first off, I'm going to say I don't understand the North scoring. We got cleared him 4 times, and I need to tell my alliance mates to hold off because if we get him back to full health, we lose on our rewards. It literally does not matter. Just kill him as many times as you want. The kill count is just a number. They could put a 1 on your score every time you kill him. It's nothing. It just doesn't matter. It's nothing. What teams are y'all using against Knull? It doesn't matter. As long as every alliance has Astro, you get max points. No need to theorycraft or overthink. That's not what Scopely wants. Yeah, I thought I was the only one being salty about this yesterday, and now I'm getting on Reddit, and it's like, it would have been more interesting in some ways if there was a leaderboard, because this, obviously Astral, you just take an Astral hit auto and you get your score. But then if it's based on a leaderboard, then there's some incentive to figure out what the second best team and the third best team is, right? And I went in with Black Knight, Old Man Logan, Mephisto, and Apocalypse. Some people use Super Scroll, and I got 100 million points. That was cool. And then people saying that, of course, Astral, but the other one was Absolute, A-Force. Okay. So that would have been more interesting, and maybe that is the plan for the next Knull fight. I think that would have made it way more interesting, at least having some sense of what to do. It was even more interesting when we were using the bleed teams. That was more interesting. I wish that was just a normal thing in it. Or like this other post is what if that works on one of the stages, one of the forms of Knull that works? Oh my God, that'd be great. Yeah, I feel like there's 100 ways of making this more interesting than it was. Absolutely not good still. And this idea of just buy Astral and be done with it is great. Now, it only took a handful of people to clear him once, which gets the max rewards for that zone. But as far as the entire week, it was 12 or 14 million something. We ended up getting 26 million points. So you only need half alliance to max out the entire weekly score. I mean, it can be accomplished with just people having Astral. Buy Astral is the strategy. All right, so we're going to pivot to some other things. That was my thoughts on Battleworld. Yesterday I had these thoughts and I quit my stream because I was so frustrated with it. It's interesting that other people are having similar opinions on the Knull fight. For those who use Shadow King instead of Gladiator Arena, thank you. It's so easy to beat. Please, no more people use Shadow King. Really good on offense, but he's bad on defense. I don't even have Odin yet. Yeah, I was never using Shadow King on defense, but I was using Shadow King on offense, and I've come back to not using Shadow King even on offense. Are the mods in the Old Man Logan trial helping or boosting the enemy? I can't tell. For me, not using this first one right here, Experimental Serum 2 and Experimental Serum 3, and then running all of them, every single one putting on max difficulty, I didn't even have to do every stage, was much easier than it has been before. Historically, as far as the Old Man Logan trials, stage 4, the fourth stage, was the most challenging. This time around, it was so much easier than before. That's the one with Spider Society. This time I ended up using like Spider Society and Captain America and Black Knight. And I just, maybe it's because the level cap increase, or maybe it's because I'm a purple 3, or maybe it's because they're at 19. It was as a cakewalk. But my understanding is that if you don't use all of the scourges, all of them other than this first one and this third one, it can be somewhat of a challenge. Let me know what you think in the comment section. What was your experience with Battleworld? Was it uneventful to you as well? Bye for now.